Okay, it's raining today, although it's really light. Who knows if it will stop in certain areas? I guess we'll see, huh? And with that in mind, what did I read today? How about this one? More news again about drones flying in places where they shouldn't, allegedly anyways. This one says, NATO scrambles jets after deepest drone breach yet in Romania. Romanian and German NATO fighter jets were scrambled on Tuesday near Romania's border with Ukraine to respond to a drone incursion that penetrated deeper than ever into Romanian airspace in what Bucharest called a Russian provocation. Defense Minister Launat Mosinu said that NATO pilots came close to shooting down a drone which had repeatedly entered the alliance members' country's airspace but had held off over concern about causing damage on the ground. It says drone fragments without an explosive charge were later found on Romanian territory. We are dealing with a new Russian provocation against Romania, a drone which the Romanian army and German Eurofighters have tried to shoot down. My assumption is that the pilots analyzed the potential collateral damage and chose not to engage. Russian drones had struck Ukrainian ports overnight near the border with Romania, which lies across the Danube River. Although in terms of using drones as a weapon of sort, how about using them to attack mosquitoes? But I suppose things like red tape basically stop that from happening around the area here. It says drone attack on BC mosquitoes failing to create a buzz in provincial legislature. Officials in BC's interior are upset the province seems to have swatted their latest stab at mosquito control aside like an annoying insect. They make it sound like it's a really deadly thing anyways, and apparently they're trying to say how it's so much cheaper to use things, for example, such as drones versus things like a helicopter. And they say here, quote, "Fortunately, there is a solution." She's referring to the use of remotely piloted aircraft systems or drones. The agricultural sector is already using drones to spray fertilizers, and Transport Canada recently issued nationwide approval for their use in avalanche control, saying the use of RPAS would transform the mosquito control industry in BC and in doing so would address many priorities highlighted in your ministry mandate letters. One of the talking points actually is how if they do this, it'll create more jobs, and they do say Milchek said helicopters are very expensive and often unavailable for aerial spraying due to the use in forest fires. As well, the labels on many registered pesticides are being reviewed for use by drones. However, what is missing is the approval from provincial government to allow the certification process to permit the use of RPAS for pest management application. In BC, workers who provide mosquito control and invasive plant treatment are required to be certified, and there is no BC certification process or category specific for RPAS applications. Well, it's one of those topics again, in my opinion, where people say, well, look at the government, they're basically enabling people to do this and that with, let's just say, the drones now in order to advance things like the industry, whereas in reality, if you think about it, they're the one that inputted all these crazy over-the-top restrictions and regulations in the first place. So they're kind of creating the problem and then offering a solution, if you think about it anyways. I mean, I would think anyways, it's one thing flying your drone around within, let's just say, a secluded area to take care of mosquitoes. I don't know, maybe it's within your own field or something like that. And there's another thing in terms of people creating things like bombs and so forth, like in the previous story with weapons and so forth. Completely different. Imagine if it was like this for other things like riding a bike, where they demand you not only need to get licensed to learn how to ride a bike, you'll then need permission and special certification to be able to carry a grocery bag or something like that on your bicycle. I mean, wouldn't that be crazy? That's kind of like how it is anyways. Or you can even imagine that as a car. Let's just pretend everyone determined, okay, cars are humongous or dangerous. At the same time, even though you're licensed, you still need permission, for example, to carry certain basic stuff like your toolbox or something like that. And this was an interesting story I read. It dealt with the company Campbell, which makes a lot of soup products, for example, chicken soup and so forth. But apparently there was this audio clip that was recorded behind the scenes where an executive of sort, I guess, was scolding the actual company's products, saying how he would never actually eat it and so forth.
I don't buy Campbell's products barely anymore. So healthy. Now that I know what the in it. Even in a can of soup, I look at it, look at me, bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer.
So apparently this happened back in November 2024, where a person named Robert Garza, who was a cybersecurity analyst, he joined Campbell Soup in about September 2024, and he had a meeting, I guess, with his supervisor named Martin Bally, and he was a vice president and chief information security officer, to discuss things like salary review. And apparently anyways, in this meeting, he secretly recorded the actual meeting in general, where the guy just went crazy.
We have shit for poor people. Who buys our shit? Millions on another thing. They couldn't think for themselves. I'm like, these dumb
So that generated a lot of controversy. Do they use, for example, quote, 3D printed meat? Most people would think, for example, that means it's fake. And as a result, I guess the company had to issue all these statements. For example, saying whether or not their chickens are, quote, 3D printed. For example, they say here, does Campbell's use bioengineered food ingredients? And it says bioengineered food ingredients refers to genetically modified crops, canola, corn, soybeans, sugar beets, etc. that are grown by the vast majority of American farmers. The language on our label refers to ingredients derived from those crops, not chicken. A recent video contained false comments about our ingredients. The comments heard on the recording about our food are not only inaccurate, they are absurd. We do not use lab-grown chicken or any form of artificial or bioengineered meat in our soups. We are proud of the food we make and the high-quality ingredients we use. So there could be an argument there where that guy going on that rant was kind of saying it more as a form of expression, for example, versus actual facts. But at the same time, that's not a good look for the company. Would it make you weary about buying, I guess, Campbell's soup? And the other topic, I guess, in general is how, again, when people are in a position of power, for some reason, they just feel like they're immune, like they're so much higher, I guess, than a lot of other people where they could rant like that without a filter. Like, that's kind of interesting psychologically, in my opinion anyways, when you see people do that when they don't think they're being, I guess you could say, watched in any way, or it won't come back to bite them. I guess there's no flying today, huh? I guess more time to practice with the camera. I'm actually getting a lot of interesting, I guess, shots and just figuring out the best settings and all that as well. Alright, see you guys later.